Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Aaliyah, and in this video I'm going to be talking about postpartum experience and must-haves. So postpartum is basically just right after birth. At this very moment, I'm almost 4 months postpartum. Baby's almost 4 months old. Just want to talk about my experience and the things that I used most during that postpartum period, and a little bit of the things that I didn't realize that didn't really work for me, because I went crazy and I watched tons of videos and bought everything basically, and some of the stuff didn't really work for me or whatever. So I'm going to start off with my hospital experience. The first thing that happened postpartum was I got stitches. I had a first-degree tear, perfectly normal. Most first-time moms get some type of tearing, and first-degree tear is basically the least severe type of tear that you can get. So that was the first thing that happened. They put some numbing cream or whatever down there, and they go ahead and stitch it up. It wasn't as scary as I had thought it was going to be. I was so afraid of that. While I was pregnant, I did do like perineal massages and little things to help prevent it. I don't know if that did anything, but it really wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, with keeping in mind that I didn't have any type of severe damage or whatever. The next thing that happened in the hospital was my nurses had wanted me to pee. I think it was within like an hour or so of giving birth. I don't remember exactly, but they wanted me to pee, and I went and I tried. It is so hard to pee right after birth. It just feels like you can't feel where that muscle is. I just couldn't feel it. And I got like a little bit out, and she was like, that's not enough. And they ended up putting this, not a catheter, but something else that they can put in there to like get the pee out. I'm just gonna call it a catheter. So they like put it in there to get the pee out, and it was so much. It ended up being like a container like this big and like this high, and it was like full. It was like almost to the very top. I couldn't believe that all of that liquid came out of my bladder, and I couldn't feel it. So after that, I had gotten moved from the birthing room to the postpartum area where they care for you, and I got new nurses. Once you got to the postpartum room, they started giving me like painkillers. I had to try to latch my son because I wanted to breastfeed. So I tried latching him, and he actually latched on perfectly from the very beginning. He latched on perfectly, but it was painful in terms of contractions. So your uterus will contract after birth, but breastfeeding like makes it worse. And people always talk about this, but it was so much worse than I thought it was gonna be. Like, it was really painful. I was breathing through contractions while I was breastfeeding, and it's not as painful as like labor, like the peak of labor for me at least, because I had like a half labor because half my epidural, whatever. So it wasn't that painful, but it hurt really bad, and a lot more than I had expected it to. I never experienced like engorgement or anything. Like, even when my milk first came in, I know people talk about like getting super engorged when the milk first comes in. My son was like trying to latch onto me like every hour when he was first born, so I never got super engorged. So another thing I wanted to mention was the uterus massages. They actually did that in the birthing room for the first time, but those hurt. Those hurt really bad for me. I don't know if my nurses were just really aggressive with it or not, but mine hurt really, really bad. It was so painful, and people always talk about it, and I was like, it's not gonna be that bad. I just had a baby. It's not gonna hurt that bad. It hurt so much. They were coming in at first like every 30 minutes to do it, and then they kind of pushed it to an hour, and then like 3 hours, something like that. But in the beginning, like every time a nurse came in my room, I was like scared, because I knew that they were coming to do that massage, and it hurt so much. It hurt so bad. So yeah, that was my experience at least. I know some people say that that doesn't hurt or whatever, but for me it hurt a lot. I think every hospital is different, but another thing to expect is for like your caretakers or whatever at the hospital to not want you to leave until you have a bowel movement. So my doctor had told the nurses to give me a stool softener, and they also offered me milk of magnesia on top of that, and I took it because from everything that I saw, everybody said to take all the stool softeners, all the laxatives that they give you, because of the postpartum bowel movement can be painful. So I did all that, and Mine didn't hurt at all. So my advice on that would be to take the stool softeners if they're offering them to you. On to my must-haves and my experience like at home. My first must-have would probably be these adult diaper thingies for when you first are home and bleeding and stuff. I added like a bunch of stuff into them. Like the hospital gave me these cold packs. Like they give you these huge pads, but my hospital had these huge like ice packs. These ones are from Freedom Mom. I never finished these because I wanted to finish the free ones from the hospital first before I use these. So these basically, you like break them in half kind of, and it stimulates like ice. I don't know what is in here, but it stimulates this cooling sensation like a patsicle that people make. This is basically the same thing, except you don't have to make a patsicle. So they had those at my hospital, and they were literally the best thing ever. So at first, I would put my patsicle in here, and I would use those Tux witch hazel pads. I also got those from the hospital, so there's no need to buy them. If your hospital offers them, maybe, I don't know if you guys can ask, but there's no need to buy them because your hospital has them. But I did have the Freedom Mom liners, the witch hazel liners, and they're basically the same thing as the Tux, but they're like a long strip, not just like circles like the Tux. So might be just a little bit easier maybe to put those on, but I like them both equally. I didn't really have a preference between the two. After you're using the bathroom, you can't like wipe or anything right after birth, so everybody recommends the Freedom Mom water bottle thingy. I have one, but I have no idea where it is at the moment. I think I packed it away for like the next baby because I love that one so much. They give you some peri bottles at the hospital too, and I use them. I just put them in other bathrooms in the house, and I put the Freedom Mom one in the main bathroom that I use, so I do recommend that. Also got this Earth Mama herbal perineal spray. To me, this was unnecessary. Like I said, I went on Amazon and I got a ton of stuff for postpartum. For me, this ended up being unnecessary. I prefer the Dermaplast, which they gave me at the hospital, so it was like unnecessary for me. A lot of the things that you need, you end up getting at the hospital, so I wouldn't really bother with like buying a ton of stuff. You know, I think that one can of Dermaplast is enough, and I'm pretty sure, I think I got like 2 from the hospital, so yeah. Another must-have is some kind of nipple cream. I have 2 here, the lanolin cream and the Earth Mama organic nipple cream. Like both of these you can put on your nipples after you breastfeed and stuff, and they like help keep everything from chapping. It still chaps and is painful. For me at least, the first couple weeks breastfeeding were the worst. They were the most painful. My nipples were like cracked and bleeding, and this basically helped with the pain. So between these two, this one is the one that worked really well for me. This didn't really do a whole lot for me. At the hospital, the nurses told me to like rub my colostrum on there, and that didn't really do anything for me either. Personally, like I needed something else to put on there. For me, nursing pads were a must-have because you just, when your milk first comes in. For me, my milk coming in wasn't painful. I know for some people it is. I didn't have a painful experience with it, but your milk has to like regulate. I don't need to wear breast pads all the time now. I still leak through my shirts kind of, but like my whole entire shirt won't be wet. But when my milk first came in, then my whole shirt would be wet. So nipple pads or breast pads are a must-have if you plan to breastfeed. I'm not really sure how the process is if you plan to like dry up your milk or whatever. I think you probably still need them while the milk is drying out, but those are a must-have. I went through like 2 boxes of breast pads, and I used the ones that are from the same brand. They worked just fine. Another must-have to me is your prenatal vitamins, to continue taking them after birth to prevent like postpartum shedding and everything, and just to like finish them, you know, so they don't go to waste. And I think that once I'm done with these, I'm gonna move on to either a postnatal vitamin or just a regular like woman's multivitamin. Continuing to take your prenatals is supposed to help with like postpartum shedding and everything, which I think I'm still having postpartum shedding. Like, I swear, I think I'm still having it. And like when I run my fingers through my hair, I get like a ton of shedding and stuff, way more than I used to. So I think I'm still getting postpartum shedding. I just don't think it's as bad as it might have been had I not been taking my prenatal vitamins. But yeah, I'm not going to get more prenatals after this. I'm just going to move on to either postnatal or like a regular woman's vitamin or whatever. You do get put on pelvic rest, which is basically nothing going up there until you get checked by your doctor. So I had my appointment at 6 weeks and I didn't get cleared. I didn't get taken off of pelvic rest or anything because my stitches were still kind of there. So they had to like trim my stitches at my 6-week appointment, which was scary, but I mean, it didn't hurt anything. I just like trim scissors down there, you know what I mean? So they did that and they gave me like a cream to put down there to help with healing, because apparently breastfeeding, my son is exclusively breastfed, and apparently breastfeeding can slow the healing process, which I had no idea about. So that's something to keep in mind in case the same thing happens to someone who watches this video. That can possibly happen. So I ended up having to follow up with my doctor at 8 weeks and I got cleared at 8 weeks. So I think that's everything that I used, all of my must-haves plus extras that didn't really work for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.